Today we're going to talk about cutting dados with a table saw and cutting the same dado with a router and an edge guide, and talk about the differences and why would one perhaps be better than the other, and which one would I want to use. So as always, we hope you'll subscribe to these videos so that you can get notified of content in the future. And at the end, if you liked what you saw, please hit the like button. So, the dado for a table saw is very simple and straightforward. The geometry is the distance from the edge of the board where you want to cut the dado, and that's where you put the dado blade. And we simply run the wood up against this fence through the dado blade, and we end up with a dado cut in one pass all the way through the board. To do a similar operation with a router, the configuration I'm showing here today, I'm going to put that blade down so I don't damage it, is using an edge guide. And this edge guide fits into the base of the router, and you can move it closer and further away from the blade like that, and then cinch it down when you have the geometry correct. I don't have the dado blade in here, but the dado blade would be protruding from the center of the bottom here, and we would line this edge guide up with the edge of the wood, and then we would simply push the router through the wood, making sure that we keep this edge guide up against the edge of the wood. And we pass all the way through, and we have a dado cut in the wood like we would with the table saw. So what's the difference? Well, some of the differences are subtle. With regard to speed, it's all about setup. The cutting of the dado is very quick in both cases. And in both cases, you can improve the quality of the dado cut by doing it in multiple passes and raising the blade or the router bit incrementally until you reach the depth that you want. So it's all about setup. How long does it take you to set up the dado blade on your table saw versus how long does it take you to get this paraphernalia out and put it onto your router? I would think the router would actually be quicker because you don't have to install a dado blade and then deinstall the dado blade at the end. I personally find it to be a challenge to put the dado blade on, do the dado, and then I've got to do other cuts, and then what if I want to come back and do another dado? So sometimes I'm changing blades on the table saw time after time, whereas if I'm doing the dado with the router and the straight cuts with the table saw, and each is set up for that individual function, then I can bounce back and forth between doing dado cuts and doing straight cuts. I would say that if you had to rate the quality of the sides of the dado that are cut, they are equivalent, equal between the table saw and a router. The bottom of the dado, however, is likely to be a bit smoother using a router bit because the router bit covers the entire bottom surface at the same exact distance from the top surface of the wood, whereas the chipper blades in a typical dado stack are not quite as accurate, and you'll see some crease lines in the bottom. So again, it's all about setup time and how long it takes to set one up versus the other. The performance is similar. The speed of cutting the actual dado is similar. The bottom surface of the dado is a little bit smoother using a router. The side surfaces are equivalent with both of these. I prefer to use both of them, that is, to use the table saw for straight cuts and the router for dados when I'm working on a project, because then I can go back and forth without changing out configurations. So that wraps that up. If you're If you like what you saw, we would appreciate your hitting the like, and we ask that you subscribe so that you can be kept informed of future videos that we put out.